If we haven't met yet, my name's Doug. I run a business called Convology. It's a community-centric business. Essentially, everything that I have for sale and everything that I do revolves around participation in the Convology community. And after 5 years, I've built, grown, and I would say I've reached the point where I'm starting to scale my community. And I want to share with you the tips that I would give myself if I were going to be starting a community-centric business today. Tip number one is to create a market of one. And there's a couple aspects of this that I want to go over. Now, what does it mean to have a market of one? Well, just like it sounds, you need to essentially be the only option for somebody in the market. And you might be thinking, well, how do I do that if I'm in an industry that has 50 different community based businesses or more? What if I'm doing this in a super competitive industry? The key here is that you need to offer something that no one else is offering, or offer it in a way that no one else is offering, or focus deep on something that you can carve out in this industry that you're in that's unique to just yourself. I did something very similar in the internet marketing entrepreneur tech stack space, which is highly saturated. There's literally millions of people doing this on YouTube every single day. And the way that I've been able to do this with a very small YouTube channel now for 5 years is to reach and target an audience or a potential member that is looking for exactly what I have to offer and not what everybody else is currently doing. You don't want someone else to be able to look at what you're doing, whether that's your marketing on a YouTube channel or whatever you're doing to promote your community-based business or the things inside of it. You don't want somebody to be able to say, that one looks nice, but I think I want to go with that one over there, because then you're competing with other people and it becomes a debate about price and a bunch of other things happen at that point. Now, part of creating a market of one, and I'm going to lump these two tips together, even though I could have separated them out into two separate ones, is knowing why people would buy a membership to a community that you're running. So in my case, 5 years ago, I realized that there was kind of a void of someone who had a presentation style like my own, very very casual, very raw, very genuine is the word that I hear a lot of people comment about my content. There wasn't anyone out there like me that was able to say, hey, look, I'm using these tools. This is how I'm using them. This is how I'm getting things done. This is how I'm growing my business and helping clients, etc. And so I was able to just start creating videos with no budget at all, with a very simple, basic looking setup that honestly I'm still running with today. And I'm able to create videos that generate relatively extremely low views for the industry that they're in, however, convert extremely high for turning viewers into customers, whether that be for a community or for coaching work or whatever else I might be selling. So the people that I was reaching out to in my community are those that needed help with tech stack problems and challenges related generally to the tools that I was making. So what's one thing that's been in my community for literally 5 years? It's my tech stack help space. It's for people to be able to say, hey, I saw your video. I need a little bit of extra help. And then they ask me, reach out to me, is there any way that I could get additional help from you? And I say, well, yeah, of course I do these one-on-one services, but I also have a great community that has content and courses and basically a community environment where you can reach out and ask questions 24/7 and join office hours that happen every week, etc. And it became very apparent to me right from the beginning that the main reason that people were buying from me wasn't what I thought it was. It wasn't necessarily that they needed tech help, right? Because that kind of breaks the idea of the market of one. People can get tech help anywhere. What they can't get is they can't get tech help directly from somebody like me, and they can't get access to someone who essentially is me anywhere else. Still to this day, I'm the only me out there. And that's what the people who join my community predominantly are looking for. They're looking for that access to me. They're looking to say, hey, Doug, this specific thing in my tech stack isn't working. I trust you and I know that you can help me find that solution. Can you take a look at my setup and tell me what's wrong with it? That's what people want. And people want to be able to do that by posting a Loom video in a community or joining an office hour or however they might reach out to me for help from within the community. That's something that I found out pretty early in the lifespan of my community within year one. And I really just doubled down on it. And there are things I would have done a little bit differently. And I'm going to talk about those things in a separate video. However, I still was able to capitalize on that in my first year. And I was able to grow my business around that idea of getting access to me. So if you are looking to grow a community-based business, my big tip is find that main thing that people are going to want. And if that is access directly to you, which I will say is from working with so many different businesses over the years that have started communities and grown these membership type experiences, access to you, to your brain, to your knowledge, your skills, your opinion, you as an entertainer, whatever it might be, you are typically the reason that they will join. Rarely these days will somebody join a community. I don't care what year it is. This is 2025, but even if you're watching this 2 years from now, I still believe that people will rarely join a community if it's not for the creator of the community. There are some industries where people want to join a community and talk to each other and interact and things like that. But for the most part, I think we're trending even more towards an era of engaging with that sole creator. And I'm totally okay with that. I know a lot of people would say, oh my gosh, you need to remove yourself from the business, you need to scale, etc. But I don't believe in that. And I think you can totally scale a business, particularly using the right community tools and be an active participant in your community, even if the focus is you, and you can still scale it. So that takes us to tip number two, which I believe is a huge part of why my community has been such a success and continues to grow. And it's all about this idea of events. Now, in my own community, I run weekly office hours every Friday, and I stagger the time so that people in Australia and Europe and wherever you might be living can attend these Q&A sessions essentially and ask whatever question that they have about their tech stack. That really ties into the main reason why a lot of people buy into my community that I was talking about before, and it's that access to me. And for 1 hour, once a week, it's an easy win for me and the members of my community to get the help that they're looking for. Now, as I mentioned before, I really doubled down on this idea of what people wanted from my community. And since it was me, I'm at the center of that. So I'm going to be at the center of the events. I've in the past joined communities, and one of the reasons I stopped joining other people's communities is because they all did this like handoff where you would join the community because you really like this person's YouTube videos or the product that they made or the book that they wrote. And as soon as you got into the community, you found out, wow, there's like very little of this creator or this person in their community. And they had like one or two events at the beginning, or they maybe do like quarterly events, and otherwise they're not really there. So for my members, I really try to be present. So for example, we have mastermind group calls where we can talk about our businesses, what's working, what's not, challenges, etc. As I've mentioned, our weekly office hours, we also have workshops. So every other week right now, I'm running workshops on my new program that came out, which interestingly kind of ties into this a little bit. It's about growing on YouTube without being a YouTuber. And we have workshops going on that right now. So I've got one on August 6th, one on August 13th that people can RSVP to and they can attend. And so I'm running all of these different events and activities inside of my community where I'm personally present that people can sign up for. And again, it's a win-win. They're getting that time with me and they're getting their questions answered, or they're learning something new, or whatever it might be related to their business and their tech stack. Now, I don't know what community platform you're considering using. I love Circle mostly because of the events feature. I've talked about this before. I'll link that video down below in the description where I talk about community and events and Circle and why I use it. But really, I can create different event categories. I can stream directly into my community. So a live room is basically like a Zoom call in the community. A little thing will appear here in the bottom left-hand corner that says Doug went live for the Q&A. Click here to join. You can do more webinar type style where people can just join and ask in the little Q&A feature that can pop up on the screen, and then you can just present one to many. But I think pretty much all of my events are just the live room, the Zoom type call where we can all just see each other's cameras and talk, and everybody can participate. So if you're planning to launch a community business, I would encourage you to think about the different types of events that you could have in your community for your members to participate in. And I'd really strongly encourage you to make those events centered around you and your knowledge, why you started that community, whatever the focus might be. Okay, tip number three is around the idea of courses and content inside of your community. Over the last 5 years, I've had a pretty big focus on content and courses. Before I even started my community, the first thing I did was release a course. But I really think that courses are on the decline, and I don't think courses alone are enough for a business model anymore. However, I feel courses, when combined with community, create a perfect opportunity for you to leverage the power on both ends of that equation. Inside my community, I have a courses section, and I used to sell these courses individually, and now I use most of them, some of them strategically. I use as affiliate bonuses, for example, like SureCard Academy and High Level Mastery are two of my courses with a ton of content that I actually give people access to for free if they pick up those tools through my affiliate link. And then I leverage that opportunity to upgrade them into the community after a period of time. It's a really great strategy that's worked for me that I should probably talk about in a video in the future. But essentially, all of these courses you see here are my current courses at the time of recording, and I've condensed quite a few of them down. For example, my Thrive Suite course used to be 4 different courses, now it's just one. And the Launch Framework and my Business Growth Loop. The Launch Framework, technically not a course, but I love how Circle organizes their courses, so I've put it together under one name, and it's like a collection of resources and tools for launching your tech stack. And the Business Growth Loop is that YouTube without being a YouTube or business growth program that I talked about earlier. So now the reason I recommend courses and or content, like I said, it doesn't have to be a course, it can just be content. The reason I recommend that with your communities, it gives you a really great point of leverage to say, I have this really great essential library of information, right? Whether it's a workshop or webinars or collections of things that you've done, it doesn't have to be courses, but it allows you to say to somebody who's looking at joining your community, to see that you have a collection of content that could answer their questions that they could go through and learn from. You're essentially just giving them multiple different ways of being served and provided value. I will say over the last 5 years, I've noticed that, well, especially over the last 5 years, the number of people completing course content and using course content has gone way down in my community. And the number of people engaging with my office hours and posting my community continues to go up. But I have noticed that I've been able to use content in my community to bring people in and to be able to provide people with a roadmap. Now, let me explain those two things. The first one is being able to bring people in. Something that I also need to talk about more is the ideas that I've been having around accelerators and challenges and things where you can use content to bring people in for like a challenge or an accelerator and say, we're going to work through this topic together over the next 5 to 10 days. After that, you're going to be a part of the community, et cetera, et cetera. That's a really great way to bring people in because people might be interested in a topic with the promise of engagement with you. And then you can provide them, whether through upsell, order bump, whatever it might be, you can provide them with another opportunity to get in and become a part of the community. Because people don't always just want to buy a community, which we'll talk about in a second. The other piece there about the roadmaps, let me show you what I've been working on in my own content here. So inside of my tech stack launch framework, I have a section called Tech Stack Blueprint Roadmaps. A roadmap is essentially my way of laying out all the content that I have on a topic. In this case, this would be my high level course. It's all my high level content. And I'm telling people, watch this lesson, take this course, watch this module first, then watch this one. And it's my ability to help curate the content experience for somebody all within the walls of my community. And not all of my content in my roadmaps is community content. For example, this one right here, this is actually a YouTube video, but I'm putting it in my content roadmap and I'm saying, this is the video that you need to watch after you watch, what did I say in here? The first 4 modules basically in my high level course. I'm saying, watch those modules, then watch this video. Then you should go back to my course and watch this module, then watch this YouTube video. People can't get access to the roadmaps in my community anywhere else. So it's exclusive for members of my community to get that curated path of progression through preparing to launch their tech stack. Take that and apply it to your business however you will. But I really do believe that having that content alongside the community component is a huge added value to your community. The next tip that I have is to have a resource library or something like it inside of your community. Something that I started 5 years ago was every time I created community content, like an office hours or a community tutorial or one of our mastermind groups or a workshop, or if I had downloads that I made for the community, all of that goes into the community in a specific section. One of the reasons I really like circles because I can use a single space and use these topics here at the top, for example, to say, okay, this is all of my content from 5+ years, and here's just my Q&As. Here are just my mastermind calls once a month. Here are my tutorials, my workshops. Here are my downloads, right? So anything that I build and do for my community is found in the resource library. And it exists in other places, like in the roadmaps and maybe even under some of the different tech help spaces or in the courses themselves. But I put it here because people are able to come into the community and they're able to very quickly find something that might be useful to them or something that they missed. And I've been told time and time again that the resource library for some people is why they stick around and continue to be a member. The next tip I want to give you about running a community-based business and being able to start one and grow one successfully is about pricing. Over the years, I've tested probably too many different price points. I've probably done too much experimentation, but it's all been for the sake of trying to figure out what works, trying to A/B test with one price point out there, so to speak. Sometimes I'll do true A/B tests and show some people one price, some people another. But I'm going to share with you that wisdom that I've gained over the 5 years of experimentation, and hopefully some of it is helpful to you when you're thinking about how to price your community. The first tip that I want to get out of the way is that lifetime pricing, and you're probably thinking I'm going to say is a bad idea, but I actually think that lifetime pricing has a lot of benefits. In all the testing that I've done, lifetime pricing has been by far the most successful pricing scheme that I've come up with. And that's for a couple of different reasons. Obviously, people like the idea of paying once and having ownership forever. People don't like subscriptions necessarily. I think we're kind of entering an era where everything's a subscription. So, on one hand, people are used to paying subscriptions, so they're okay with it. But then on the other hand, if you offer something that's not a subscription, people will jump on it. But I have personally found that the lifetime model has and will continue to work very well for me. So I strategically introduce it at different times of the year, or if people ask me, "Hey, Doug, do you have a lifetime membership fee?" Maybe I'll give it to them. But over the years, I have found it works super, super well for me. I've also learned a lot about the different types of subscriptions. So currently, I am running a quarterly and annual subscription. Here's some interesting findings that I've seen over the last 5 years. There's a difference between a monthly subscriber and someone who will pay quarterly, and to an extent, someone who will pay annually, though the difference between the quarterly and the annual subscriber is pretty small. And I'll tell you why in a second. I have found that the monthly subscriber in my type of community model has a higher churn rate. Well, you might be saying, well, duh, Doug, they have more opportunities to churn. And while that's true, I think there's a psychology difference here. I think that someone that joins my community in my community model may, so if there's two things at work here. Yes, they may get their question answered quickly and then leave, and that's totally fine. I would say that's an acceptable type of person who says, I've got these 5 questions. I joined for a month. I got those 5 questions answered. I took a course, got everything I wanted. Great, I'm done. Awesome. If I offer a monthly membership and I serve someone like that, fantastic. Let's part ways. But then there's the person that joins at a monthly subscription because they want an out. They want that foot out the door. And I've noticed that there are quite a few people like that. And I've noticed that the monthly subscriber has more in common with the free subscriber than they do with someone who's willing to pay quarterly, annually, or lifetime. People who pay quarterly, they're locking in for 3 months. They're a little more committed. I have found, at least in my business, in my model, I deal mostly with entrepreneurs and business owners. Someone who's willing to pay, in my case, $250 a quarter, which comes out to like $83 a month, that person is more engaged and will typically, from what I've seen, see more success than someone that joins monthly. And as I said, the people that join on an annual rate tend to be very similar in my community. I have found that the $250 per quarter or $900 per year, which is $100 off, I found that they're generally the same because my average retention on my quarterly plan right now is, average is probably the wrong word. Maybe I'm looking for like median. It's closer to a year. So essentially I'm attracting a way different type of audience when I sell on the quarterly or annual model. Now, between the two of these, which one's more popular? It would be quarterly membership by a good amount, not a ton, but a good amount. But the lifetime, which you can notice is not for sale here, as I mentioned, the lifetime would outsell both of these by at least 50%. I'll probably end up putting the lifetime subscription back in here. And if you're wondering what I've learned over the last 5 years for lifetime subscriptions, price it at about 2 years, particularly if your average retention, and if you're just starting, you have no idea. But this is good to know. Know your numbers, because then you can start to make decisions like this that aren't just like trial and error guesswork. For me, I know that most people tend to stick around. We're getting closer to sticking around a year and a half right now. That's not an average, but maybe it's like the median. I don't know, maybe it is the average. But I've got people who've been here all 5 years. I've got people that stay 3, 4, 1, 2. Like I said, it's all over the place, but about a year and a half is the average retention. So I want to price my lifetime model at about 2 years. If your concern is like, well, I don't want to offer a lifetime because what if 2 years from now I want to change business models or something, I'd say like maybe rethink the community idea because it's kind of a long-term strategy. But if you are concerned about that, then just say like, this is a Lifetime membership, I guarantee you'll get at least 2 years out of the program. If not, I'll give you a prorated refund. That seems fair to me. But that's what I found on pricing. Now, related to pricing, I get a lot of questions like, where should I start my payments? I think that's going to vary per industry. I serve businesses and entrepreneurs, people who are paying for technology, business costs. They have typically more money to spend than someone who's joining a gardening club or a pickleball club or something like that. But I think this strategy would apply no matter what your price point or industry is, and that is start as low as you can because you can always go up and you probably shouldn't go back down. So in this case, I would say if you were thinking, well, I kind of want my membership to be, I'll pull a number out and say $100 a month, then I would say probably start at like 25 in the very, very beginning and say to the first people that join, when you join, you are going to be joining at a founder member's price. It's going to go up over the course of time, but you're going to lock in at your rate. That's always a promise that I say you should make in your communities to lock people in at that rate. Most of the tools that you're going to use to sell your community access can handle that no problem on the subscription side. And then the strategy that I'd recommend for price increases is to tell people, when you join, you're locking in your rate, and I will be increasing the price when we reach 40 members or 50 members, 75 members, 100 members. And I would say instead of doing bigger price increases less often, do smaller price increases more often. One of the strategies that I've started to do in my own is to say the price is going to increase soon when we reach 200 active members. I have to update this to say 179, but essentially when we reach 200 members, the price will go up. And I would say raise the quarterly price. So maybe that'll be 275 a quarter, maybe it'll be 260 a quarter. You don't have to tell people, that's part of the scarcity. People don't know what it's going to go up to. Or raise it on a predictable cadence and say, look, you're going to pay $50 a month today, but when I hit 50 members, you're going to be paying 75 a month. And it's always going to go up by 25, or maybe it's 50 for the first 50, 75 for the next 7, you know what I mean? Like, you can put predictable numbers if you want to. I think one of the things that goes along with pricing is this idea of like strategy and selling model behind a community. I'll just say I have no experience with the launch model. Since the day my community started, I have always been an evergreen for sale community. Part of that's because of the natural type of business that I am. I'm helping business owners and they're getting started 365 days a year. But if you're like in a very seasonal type industry, like let's say you're a community centered around sports or something like that, then I would say it might make more sense to do like seasons and to say like our 2025, 2026 season is starting, enrollment is open. I think that would make sense. But what I don't recommend, typically because I personally don't like it, but also because I don't have enough experience with it, is I don't really love the idea of saying, oh, my community is open and then like close it. I know that's one scarcity model that a lot of people like to do. It wouldn't work for me. And I kind of personally really dislike when I find a community that I want to join, but their doors are closed because they arbitrarily decided to close them. I don't know. I usually never come back and join. That's a personal thing, but that's how I am. So I guess what your takeaway here would be is, do you have to do the launch model? I get asked that a lot too. Do I have to do a launch model? No, I don't like launch models. I'm an evergreen seller. I haven't needed it to start, grow, or scale my community. So I don't think you do either, but it's up to you. Next tip that I want to talk about is this idea of free content. Over the 5 years of doing this, I have never had a free membership tier. I have never had a free trial tier. I have never given away my membership to anybody for free. I don't think you need a free tier to have a successful community business at all. And I would say it's just a lot more work that you don't have to worry about. Free members are a very different type of member than someone that's going to willingly pay you to join your community. There's math involved with converting and all that, but I don't like to chase the traffic. I don't like to chase the members. I want them to come to me. That's why I grow my business the way I've grown it, using my business growth loop strategy and YouTube the way that I use it. The next tip that I have is that your community doesn't have to be what you might consider a community. A lot of people think of a community as this place where people are constantly talking and constantly engaging with each other, with you. There's like all this talking going on, community interaction and involvement. And a lot of people straight up tell me they won't start a community because they're afraid people won't talk to each other. I would say that that's one type of community, but my community is not that type of community. My community is mostly full of people saying, hey, Doug, how do I do this thing? "Hey, Doug, here's a problem I have. Have you seen this before?" A lot of, "Hey, Doug." Over the last year, I've started to see a lot more, "Hey, Doug," or anyone else who has this problem, or "Hey, everyone." I've started to see more of that in the last year, which I think is really cool because we're reaching a point in my community where, like I said, people have been there for 5 years as well. I have people in Convology that are making like 10x what I could make and probably will ever make, who've started by joining Convology, which I think is really awesome. But there's people who have more experience than I have in certain areas of business. And I think it's awesome that people can communicate that way, but it's absolutely not needed to start or grow a community. There's a lot of fear around like no one talking. And I would say the easy way to get over that is to tell people inside of your community, here is one expected method of engagement, and have it be for them to post to talk to you. I think that's totally fine. And I'm just going to segue now to my next tip. And that next tip is, well, what do I do when my community is empty? Do I have to put a bunch of fake posts to make it look like people are talking? Do I have to get my friends and family in there to talk so that it doesn't look like it's empty? No, absolutely not. I started my community, and the first person I sold was the first person who joined, and I straight up told them, "Hey," I don't even remember who they are. It's terrible. If it was you, let me know. But the first person I was like, "Hey, welcome to the community. You're the first member." And I told people it's a brand new community, right? Like, don't pretend you have this thriving, hub of communication if that's not what you have. Straight up say, I'm launching my brand new community. It's open now for founding members. You're going to get founding member pricing, like we talked about earlier. Start everybody lower. You're going to get the most attention from me that anyone will ever get in my community ever. And as we grow, right, things will change, but this is day one and you're a founding member. So with the person that joined my community as the first member, they were the only member for over a week, and I was serving that person with everything I had. They were the only one in the office hour call. They were the only one posting in the community. And I said to them, make as many posts as you want, post as much as you want, ask all the questions you want. This is going to be the best business deal, business investment you've ever made in your business ever, because you're going to have me one-on-one with you until someone else comes through that door and wants to ask a question. And it started to grow and more people joined. And like I said, I don't remember who that person was. Maybe they're gone. Maybe they're still a member. I don't know. But essentially, I don't think you have anything to fear there as long as you're very transparent. And I do think that like founding members, you're going to be my first 10 members, first 5 members. It goes a long way to alleviate your concern. But I think also we put too much emphasis on people joining and worrying that they won't like being the only one there. Now, if you're selling a community of people talking to each other, yeah, you got a problem. Everything has to start somewhere, but you might have to start with like a free group and transition. That's not my expertise on transitioning free groups to paid groups, but I do think that for the most part, speaking of this in terms of business, you don't have much to worry about. Serve your customers as best as you possibly can. I personally like walking into a store and being the only one there. I like getting all the attention and me being the person that they're trying to work with. I like that versus me being one of like 10 other people in the store at the same time where you get less attention. So I think a lot of your customers will too. All right, and the last tip that I have is to listen to your members. Over the last 5 years, my community members have been awesome. They have offered up suggestions. One of our members said, "Hey, we should start a mastermind group." So we did. One of our members said, "Hey, we should have a different time for our office hours. I can't always make it at this time. Is it possible to have another?" So that actually led to us having a second. Well, actually, we used to do office hours twice a month. That led to us doing office hours every week. This was years ago. And then I had another member say, "Hey, I'm in Australia. I can't wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning. Can we have a different time?" That led to having staggering different times. Like your members will tell you what they want, and it's totally okay to ask them, "Hey, everyone, are you being served by XYZ?" My members come to me most of the time now, and I get a lot of interaction with them on our live calls. So I'm able to kind of like root out what it is that they want, but there's nothing wrong with asking them. Your members will help guide you towards what they want. They just need to understand, and you need to convey that you have their best interest in mind. So like I said, the Convology community, we're celebrating our 5th year anniversary next month, which I think is pretty awesome. I never thought I'd make it to 5 years. But if a community of entrepreneurs who are launching and growing digital businesses and rooting out and getting rid of a lot of that wasted time and confusion and the never ending launch phase that a lot of people get stuck in, If that sounds like you and that's something you're interested in, there is a link down below to join Convology Plus. But otherwise, best of luck starting your community.